This is Getting On with Life, Biblical Wisdom for Successful Christian Living. And this topic is bend or break. Have you noticed that some things are very flexible and bend easily, while others are stiff and break if bent too far? People can be just like that too, either being flexible or rigid in how they respond to things. Remaining flexible is quite a difficult challenge, considering how we like to have things the way we want them, how we understand them, and how we can control or cope with them. Some people stiffen when faced with various challenges or meeting someone they don't like. And the Bible talks of people who have a stiff neck. In Exodus 32:9, the Lord said to Moses, "I have seen this people, and they are indeed a stiff-necked people." And Isaiah 48:4 says, "I knew that you are obstinate, and your neck is an iron rod, and your brow like brass." When I was a boy, a cyclonic storm swept through the holiday area we went to each year. Palm trees flex in terrible winds, but the tall pines where we stayed were snapped off. The pines had some flexibility, but not sufficient for the once-in-a-lifetime storm that came through. You may be more flexible than others, but you may well have a snapping point, and that might be your ruin. Note King Solomon's warning. In Proverbs 29:1 he says, "He who when repeatedly reproved or challenged hardens his neck," that is, stiff-necked, "will suddenly be destroyed without remedy." The idea of hardening your neck points out that we actually choose how flexible we will be in various situations. That reminds me of people's emotional reactions to others. As an example, consider a teacher checking the children's work. To children she likes, she speaks kindly and allows for their mistakes. When she comes to a child she wishes was out of her class, she is much more stern and intolerant. She hardens herself to that child. We all tend to do that in line with our prejudices, insecurities, fears, frustrations, distrust, and so on. We are much more cautious and guarded when meeting a stranger than we are with regular friends. However, this stiffening effect, which is under our control even if we don't think about it, has serious spiritual consequences. If we harden ourselves against God, we are in great danger. King Solomon revealed wisdom's call to us, asking us to listen and warning what will happen if we refuse, if we have a stiff neck. Proverbs 1:24-27 says, "Because you neglected all my counsel and wanted none of my correction, I will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear comes, when your dread comes like a storm, and your destruction like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come on you." Each of us is put under pressure at times. In each situation we can trust God or reject God's ways and counsel. We can humble ourselves or defend our pride. We can be obedient or stubborn. We can let God be Lord or demand that we stay in control. If we bend, we give place to humility, submission, repentance, obedience, honor, grace, and kindness. If we resist the wind of God's Spirit, we harden ourselves against God. That brings us evil instead of good, but it also sets us up for the calamity of breaking as we resist God. Proverbs 6:15 warns, "Calamity will come on him suddenly. In an instant he will be shattered beyond recovery." I spoke with a friend whose mother and auntie were sexually mistreated by a church leader. The woman's mother refused to go to church ever again, while the aunt and her children became bitter against God and religion. That's a tragic and terrible abuse of position and responsibility. The consequences are also tragic. It is easy to understand the hardness of heart those women and their families feel toward the church and God. Any call to forgive would be vigorously resisted. Any call to seek God despite the evil of a churchman would be despised. Sadly for the abused women, their hardness did not help them or their families. My friend, instead of rejecting God and the church, became a church leader herself and has helped and encouraged many people through the years. So hardness, bitterness, pain, and despisement of God do not have to be the end of the story. Similarly, people have become hard toward police, officials, corporations, and even nations in response to evils they suffered. An older man I worked with decades ago refused to buy anything made by the Japanese. in protest at atrocities he saw in World War II. While all these reactions are understandable, God's grace is greater than them all. On our part, we are called to be like grass that is blown by the wind of God's Spirit, rather than a rigid tree that resists the wind and snaps, never to recover. Friends, as God speaks to your heart about the things you have suffered and the hardness you have allowed to develop within you, I call you to let God's grace in, and to be one who will bend, not break. God bless you.